Hi, folks. Thanks for tuning in on this beautiful day. And with me in the studio, again, is Ron Kloppenstein and also Jay Easy. But Ron Kloppenstein is my special guest, and soon he'll be more than a guest.
Yeah, I like the sound of that.
He's kind of a regular anyway, and we're
The
going
Monday
to,
guy.
Yeah, the Monday guy, and I think we're gonna kind of solidify that schedule.
I think that would be great.
Yeah.
Every Monday, so start your Mondays with hashtag Media Monday
Media
or hashtag
Monday.
Magic Monday.
I'm sure you'll come up with something. I'm sure you'll
Marvelous
come up with
Monday.
something. Yeah, Marvelous Monday. Media
Right.
Monday.
Media Monday.
Because you
I like
are really
that.
the media guy.
I like the sound of that.
And I tell
do.
people,
I love
do.
pop culture.
But I know, and you are. You're all over it. And I tell people that you really were there was Cornhill Speaks.
There
An
was, yes, right.
alternative newspaper, but you
There
came
was,
up
yeah.
with the first alternative.
TV.
Media.
Yeah.
Electronic media.
Right, because we went online to it.
That's right.
That's right. Before the end, we'd gone online with the website and all that stuff.
And
The old days.
didn't Keeler had a really good online news website.
Yeah, well, I think he probably
I
still
can't remember.
does.
No,
no?
he dropped it. It was too much work.
Oh yeah, it's
It
a
is
lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, it is.
The past 4 weeks, other than when I lost my dog, I had to look for my dog. All I've pretty much done, other than my day job and Utica College job, is work on this show, work on all the things I had to. In order to recap a show, it's a little bit harder than it seems because we all watch recaps we all go to see recaps of our favorite shows, see if we missed something. But the show Nolly, which was on Masterpiece, it was on PBS stations across the country for the past 3 weeks. I recapped that. So I went to the premiere, the local premiere at WCNY in Syracuse when they showed the first episode, and I interviewed some people there, and then I wrote a review of.
Now they had it
the
on the
show
big
itself.
screen there, right?
They did. They have an amazing thing there where they have a big, kind of like a big room. It's not really an auditorium, but like a big theater room where they have rows of chairs, a big giant screen, and they do it with their Masterpiece shows. So Masterpiece is on Sundays at 9, and they include shows like Downton Abbey and Sandington, and a lot of shows people are familiar with. What they have with these shows is on it's usually the Wednesday before the show premieres nationally on the Sunday. They have these free events, you can go there for free, see the premiere of the show. They give away some door prizes. They got food. It's a nice kind of cool, going to a premiere. So, and in the second segment, I believe we're going to be hearing from someone from WCNY who's going to tell us more
How
about
cool
that.
is that? I mean,
You can win prizes.
Well, we're not, CNY is PBS, right?
It is,
okay.
yes.
Well, we have a kind of a background with PBS.
Really?
Because I was on that. I was on
NPR.
NPR, right?
Right.
Yeah, NPR, PBS, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're
Yeah.
both public
Yeah,
media.
public broadcasting. And I was on wait, don't tell me. I was on Says You,
Right.
which was a tougher one.
It is a tough one. Yes. Yes.
And I went out to Boston and stuff. So this is nice. This kind of
It is nice to make
links
these
it up.
connections.
Yeah.
And, it's I think of us as a public media
We are.
group here. That's
Yeah.
what we're
I
about.
agree.
And, in a way, it's a natural connection to make with them because we're all about that. We're about serving the community.
Yes.
And that's what they're about too. So.
And including the community.
Yes.
Because I know that there are conversations that are had on this radio station that are not going to be had on any other radio station
Exactly.
around here.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
We're the voice of the people. People come in here.
WUSP,
Yep.
Utica's Station for the People.
I did not know
WUSP.
that's what they meant.
Well,
Utica
it doesn't.
Station.
I mean, but
Well, it fits though.
kind of, yeah,
we
it
can
does.
go with that.
Unofficially.
Unofficially,
Yeah.
officially, that's our heat station.
Right.
So Nolly, this was a series that came from the UK, and it was really an interesting story about a unique period in pop culture in the
England.
UK, and a unique person in pop culture. So Nolly was a woman named Noelle Gordon.
Okay.
And she was, in 1938, she was the first woman in the world to be broadcast in color on TV. So 1938, she made history globally. And then after that, she was a success on stage in England, you know, doing plays
Yeah.
and stuff. After that, she moved to TV. It was called ATV at the time. It was kind of like a forerunner of the ITV network. The ITV network is one of the UK networks. They're the ones that produce Downton Abbey, and a lot of the masterpiece shows that we see on PBS actually came from them.
Okay.
So, at one time, when these networks were just being formed, there were different regional networks across the British Isles. And then she worked for one of them, and she was promoted to head of lifestyle programming, which in a way was kind of like a forerunner of daytime TV. It was kind of like, it really was. It was kind of like a forerunner of what daytime TV would become. But when she was in charge of that division, it was a new thing. And actually, she was the first person. She launched her own like talk shows in the daytime, and she was the first woman to ever interview a British Prime Minister. So she made history with that. She was so successful with her work as a TV executive and with her talk shows that the network created a soap opera for her. So she went on to the soap opera. It's called Crossroads, and they wanted a soap opera that would be like the American shows. So they looked at like what was working over here, and one of the things that worked over here was to have women at the center of the shows, which is kind of what soap operas were like when they were first made.
Yeah.
So they created one around her. Also at the time, this was in the late 1950s, motels were like becoming a really popular thing in the U.S. because we established the interstate highways.
Interstate highways, yeah.
And all the cars, people were traveling. It was the baby boom
Eisenhower.
time. Right. So motels became a big thing here in the U.S. Like
Mhm.
people could travel, and they could stay overnight at a place that wasn't as expensive as a hotel.
Right.
But in England, they didn't have that.
So,
So-
motel is like for motor.
Motor hotel, yeah.
Motel. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
yeah,
portmanteau,
Yeah, okay.
But in the UK, no one knew what those were. So the idea of a motel was like a really novel thing to them. So they created this show where like she would be a widow she was a widow whose husband died, and with the money that she got when he died, she turned her house into a motel.
Well, actually, it would have been like more like a B&B or something like
Well, it would have been, and actually, one of the things that, like, one of the points raised in the show, especially the last episode, is that people in the UK really didn't know what a motel was. So they had to kind of explain that. In the way that, like, the story was told, really, it would be hard to turn your house into a motel.
Yeah.
But
more
it
like
was a soap opera,
lodge
and they
or
wanted
what
to
do you-
do something that they thought would be cool to their audiences over there. So they
rooming
thought-
house. or
yeah,
something.
so they thought this would be a cool thing, like a very American thing. People watch the show in the 50s and English housewives and think, it's like
Right.
an American style
Adventurous.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Crossroads was a big hit.
Okay.
Now,
How long did it last?
it was on TV from 1958. It was on until 1987, the show itself. There was a reboot, like in the
Okay.
early 2000s. We won't talk about that,
Okay.
though. But it lasted till 1987, and it was a solid, dependable hit. It wasn't a huge hit. It was never like top of the ratings charts, but it was a solid, dependable hit, and it had 15 million people a day watch the
Wow.
show. Yep. Which is good numbers, especially over in the UK. It's a smaller market too.
Okay.
So she was the star of the show.
Right.
And in 1981, after having had 25 years with that
A
network,
great run.
both as an executive, as a journalist, and as an actress,
Right.
star of her own show, she was sacked in the UK works.
But on all platforms, not just the soap opera. They kicked her off of the journalism.
Well,
and
by the time she
executive stuff?
by the time she segued into the soap, that's
Yeah.
really all that she could do.
Oh.
Because to be a soap opera star it's a lot of
Oh,
work.
okay.
They kind of have to memorize the equivalent
right,
of a
you're-
movie script
you're
every
right.
single day.
Right.
And it
But it
was
says continuum. It's like a.
yeah, but that's a lot of memorization. So I
Yeah.
mean, so by the time she segued into her own show, this Crossroads show,
Yeah.
she was no longer doing the talk show, the journalism stuff, because that took up all the time.
Okay.
And because
So she was exclusively an actress by then.
by that point, yes, for the
That's
last
what they were
like
paying her
18
for.
years of her career,
Yeah.
yes. And also, what they had to do, like just like in this country here, soap operas, although in the past they maybe got more funding and more attention than they do now,
Yeah.
they were still like kind of a low budget thing.
Right.
So Crossroads was done kind of like American soaps are done now, where like they come in or they get their script for the next day's shows. They come in, they do not really a full rehearsal, but kind of like just a blocking. You're gonna stand here and say this, and you'll stay
Right.
there and move there. Then they tape it, and it's like live on tape. So if there was like a disaster, they could like stop the tape and redo a scene. But otherwise,
It was
pretty much it was like we tape it once, and that's what goes on the air. So
one and done.
yeah, so it was a major amount of work and pressure too. And of course, in the beginning of the show, the early days, like our soaps, it was literally live. So even by like the 70s and the 80s, it was on tape, but it was really done on like one. There really were even no read throughs.
Called one and done. Yeah.
One and done. So she was an accomplished person. She was kind of like I said in my column, like she was kind of like Barbara Walters and a Susan Lucci put together.
Right. Got it.
And after all that success, all that stuff that she had done to put the network on the map,
They canned her.
they canned her.
So then what?
So it was a mystery for 40 years, from 1981 until like
And nobody
now.
complained. All these 50
Oh,
million
people
viewers.
complained. Oh yeah, I mean there was tons of mail. There were protests. There was all this stuff. But what the viewers found is kind of what we find here. What I've found and what my fellow soap fans have found is that they really don't always care what we think, and
Right.
especially as
Right, huh?
so like the ETV executives, they knew she was popular. They knew that she was the linchpin for the show.
Did she like not screw somebody?
They didn't care.
Wait,
We
wait.
find out in the third
Ah,
episode
ah,
why she actually,
yeah,
why
yeah.
and it's kind of what you thought,
Mm.
but it kind of like articulates.
She did
it.
not. She did not comply with.
She did not comply. She
with
had
the
opinions.
patriarchy.
She
It was the
exactly.
patriarchy.
Yep. And
See?
she says it too, and I have some quotes that she's actually said in the episode. So, but what I really like about her is like, well, I like her accomplishments. It's pretty amazing to have done that, and I don't think we have. We have I have a reader who pointed out to me there's one person in this country who we can kind of see as like similar in a way. Her name was Lee Phillip Bell. And she was a journalist in Chicago who was successful with afternoon talk shows and stuff. And then her and her husband, Bill Bell, who some maybe listeners may recognize the name, maybe some do not, but they moved to California. Actually, they started in Chicago, and they launched a soap opera from there called The Young and the Restless. So Young and the Restless is still on the air now, and Lee Phillip Bell produced that with her husband. So she's someone who was accomplished in both fields, the journalism and the soap field. She never lost her job because she owned the show
Yeah,
with her
right. She's
husband.
producer, yeah.
But now Noelle Gordon did, and like in the show we find out, and she articulates really what a different playing field it is for men and women in TV. Then
In the whole
now.
wide world.
Even now,
But you know
yeah.
what? We want to talk about her accomplishments and then her dissecting the her
Yeah.
version of what happened. And let's
Yes.
do that after we come back from these messages.
That sounds
okay?
good.
All right, stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back.
That's good.
Hi, this is Cassandra Harris Lockwood, and this is the Hot Seat.
Welcome back to the show. So we have a call-in guest. This is one of my new friends that I made up at WCNY in Syracuse. His name is Ruben Wright, and Ruben is a project manager at WCNY. And I asked him to call in because I was so impressed by the way that WCNY does these premiere events for the new series coming up on Masterpiece, where you can go in and watch it on a big screen, and you get to get some food, and you can win some prizes, and you get to actually talk to other fans of PBS shows and English shows and ITV shows and Masterpiece shows. So Ruben, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's great pleasure to be with you.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
welcome, Ruben. It's nice to hear your voice, and it's nice to connect up with another independent media.
Yes, Ruben. So this is Cassandra Harris Lockwood. She's the founder, CEO, editor, publisher of Utica Phoenix Media, uticaphoenix.net.
But I'm
the
turning it over to
station here.
Ron now because this
On
is
Mondays,
his big
yeah,
deal.
it's going to be Ron Mondays now, Media Mondays. So, Ruben, so can you tell us a little bit about these premier events that you guys have up there at WCNY?
Yeah, so in addition, obviously, to being Central New York, we cover 19 counties, PBS leader. Obviously, Masterpiece is a huge portion of PBS, not just regionally here, but nationally as well. A great agreement by CPB and PBS. So with those, we get shows, whether it's Nolly that's currently featuring, whether it's shows like Grantchester, Sanditon, All Creatures, Big and Small. So many great Masterpiece content that's produced over there in the United Kingdom that we then get to bring over here to the United States. Really, these premiere events, it offers us the ability to connect to the community, right? We bring in, maybe it's a couple weeks before, maybe it's a couple days before, an early look at the full episode, usually the first episode. Then we add some, additional things with it, whether it's food, some swag. We've had some panel discussions, had some, opportunities to bring some different experts in the field, kind of talk about, different, topics, right? Whether it's Masterpiece, or maybe if you're expanding it more to maybe some of the documentaries we do. But really just, connecting with the community and just giving them, a more thorough look and understanding of the show and the piece of media that they're reading or watching.
Well, I have to say, I believe that Ron has given you a big boost on this Nolly, because I didn't know anything about Nolly, and now everybody.
Now we're talking about it.
Yeah, everybody's talking about it now, and reading about it.
Yeah, and I mean, we love that, but I know I got a chance to chat with Ron when he came to our premiere event, and much like I've said to many people, right, I'm someone who grew up really much enjoying, United Kingdom, English, TV and culture, and it's really great for, us at PBS to bring that kind of experience over to America. Maybe you've never heard of Nolly, but, a fantastic show over in the United Kingdom. Soap operas, obviously, have a little bit died off here in America, but in the United Kingdom, it's still a huge part of their culture. In America, we still have, whether it was Young and the Restless, General Hospital, right? There's been a numerous amounts, but Nolly.
You got 4 left. Well, the edge of night has gone off into
Oh, I
the
know,
good night
but
a
that
long
was
time
an
ago.
early one. That was
It
an early
was,
one.
yes,
Yep,
right,
yep.
right. Yeah. So what do you think it is about these English TV shows that we like so much? I mean, I was thinking about it, and I love Downton
It's the
Abbey.
accent.
And,
One of the things.
think so?
I know I'm a sucker for an English accent.
oh yeah, those accents are pretty cool.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But you know what I have to say? I really like Ghosts, but I don't like the English Ghosts as much.
I prefer the American
So
ones.
do I. It's
Yeah,
too
yeah.
too dark.
The American was more like
Fun.
sitcomish, like
Yes.
what we used to, 22 minutes.
Yeah.
So now, if people want to watch this Nolly show that I've been writing about, that I love so much, maybe you could tell us a bit about how you could get the PBS passport and how they could watch it whenever they want to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so with PBS, with WCMY, in kind of Newton range, obviously all of you guys out there in Utica, still part of our Central New York community here with WCMY. You can either go to WCMY.org, and from there you can get over to Passport. If you look up, PBS Video, that will also bring you to PBS Video. From there, obviously, that is just the ability to watch a lot of the ongoing shows that are currently airing right now, whether it's Masterpiece, American Experience, etc. But obviously, some shows, go away, right? We think of whether it's Netflix, Amazon Prime, things like that. They have shows on there. Well, PBS and PBS Passport. If you become a member of your local PBS station, so WCMY, with your donation, you get a subscription to PBS Passport, which if you, best example, think of Netflix. You go there, it has a lot of great documentary content, Masterpiece content, shows like Sanditon, all the way from season 1, all the way to season 3, all housed in one great app called PBS Passport.
Well, I really like that, and I'm so glad you mentioned the documentaries, because one of the things I like so much about PBS is the PBS documentaries. I've watched so many of them, and I've learned so much. I mean, I was telling my students at Utica University, there was one about the Eiffel Tower, the building of the Eiffel Tower, and like how it was the first building that was over 1,000 feet tall, which surprised me. Like as late as 1800s, we hadn't gone above that until the Eiffel tower. There's interesting one about the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa was stolen once, and there's actually two Mona Lisas. There could be two that they think one might be a copy, but it actually might be another original one. Just like so many PBS has so many interesting, different, unique things. Like this show Nolly about a British soap opera actress is something that you just don't get on American TV.
But that's not really what it's about.
It's-
I mean, that's really the core goal of not even just WCY, but PBS as a whole, and as an organization that was set up earlier in the 60s, the vision of public media and education, right? Obviously, it's a great thing that we have here today. I mean, if you look at kind of the historical TV documentary, sector and kind of understanding, years ago that was kind of a norm that you would see across the industry, but as we've gone more to streaming, commercialization, we've lost a lot of that element, right? You do see shows, companies like Netflix, Amazon, they do put some money into documentaries, but it really comes to private, independent freelance filmmakers who make things, and most oftentimes where they really get their shot is a station or a company like PBS. If you think of documentary space, you can't not name someone, named Ken Burns, right? Ken Burns, pretty much
Sure.
is the go-to documentarian. He's the person that probably is the bread and butter. If you had to name, a huge event in American history, Ken Burns is the person who's told the story.
Right, and what's so good about PBS, I think the point, to add to your point here, is that it's relevant, in 2024, even with Netflix and Hulu and Apple TV, we still need PBS because the shows that are on PBS, you really don't see anywhere else, like this one, like Nelly.
Absolutely. That's the interesting thing about the time we're in. Obviously, it's a great time for media. You guys, power of radio. You can listen live anywhere. Same thing with TV, right? TV and streaming, right? That's the idea is we can get content to people anywhere around the world, not just the country, regional. It can go anywhere. And it's really a big focus of not only PBS, but more specifically WCNY. We want to tell those stories, the unknown stories, right? We have our masterpiece content, our American Experience content that comes from national. We also want to tell the local stories, right? We have 5 different shows that really kind of focus on regional topics, right? Whether it's Ivory Tower, Behind the Woman, On the Money. We want to tell the stories of Central New York. We have independent film documentaries, whether it's going to cover inclusive sports, right? Whether it's going to cover, kind of recovery from the pandemic. But that's really, at the end of the day, what WCY wants to do is just tell the impactful stories about this region and who we are as a great Central New York community.
Yeah, that's another good point too, is the local shows that you have, like Ivory Tower, where you have professors from colleges around the area come in to talk about issues. And I attended one of the tapings of the show. You have the medical show, the
Yep, Cycle House.
Cycle of Health. That's what it is, right? Yep.
But we
Yep.
do that too, a little bit.
We do.
We do alternative. I do have alternative
Yep.
health stuff.
Core thing that we want to do is have the idea of just this local element, right? You have your national stuff. Everyone loves their masterpiece. You love your American Experience, right? I watch them all the time. But it's one thing that WCY, if you look at other PBS affiliate stations around the country, that we do a lot different is that we do have a heavy focus on local shows, local resources that we can promote. As I said, you have about 5 core main local shows, but that does
Yep.
not also include all the different documentaries we do, all the different private little projects we do. We really put a core focus on telling the stories of this community. Obviously Central New York is a very wonderful place that's covered, but there's a lot of stories that get missed. And much like you guys over at Unicode, right? You try to tell stories that are unknown. Same thing with us, right? We
Sure.
want to expose some of these stories that kind of fall under the wood.
Right, and in addition to coming to see, in addition to events to see the premiere of new masterpiece shows, people can also come to watch shows being taped, like the Cycle of Health. Is every episode taped with an audience, or just the one that I attended?
Just some of them. Some shows do have audience taping, some do not. Actually, currently, right now, Ivory Tower, we mentioned earlier, they are going, it's called Ivory Tower on the Road. They've gone around to, so far, I think, one
Wow.
college, but more to come, where they actually are doing their full episode, about an hour and a half, in front of a live, audience, whether it's hosted by the college, right? Teaming up with college, having students, professors, community members actually in front and talking about some very impactful world issues that are going around, not only in this community but around the world.
That's really cool. So, where if people want more information, can you maybe give us the address for your website, social media accounts?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want more information about anything WCNY, if you head over to www.wcny.org, that is our website. Social media, WCNY PBS, almost on every single app, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter.
I've been tagging you guys too.
Facebook.
I said I've been tagging you guys too with all my posts.
Absolutely. We love that, and we love we love the work you guys do. We've been long time watchers, readers of your story, and listeners of your guys' radio show. We love our local
thanks.
community. We've done a lot of work in the Utica space. Actually, a lot of our staff is from the Utica region.
Really?
We've actually had some more and more growing projects, whether it's Ivory Tower, whether it's things like inclusive sports, really kind of telling the Utica, that market, right? Obviously, it's a different market than Syracuse. It's a different market than up north, down south, right? It's its own regionalized community, and its stories need to be told.
Ruben, I just wanted to jump in and say, in particular, here at Phoenix Radio and Utica Phoenix, we like to put the spotlight on or give the microphone to a marginalized community too, because there's so many for so long who've been under the heel
Excluded.
of excluded
On the margins.
the whole patriarchy thing, and
Which is what Nolly was kind of about.
Exactly, and that's
Yeah.
what it's about,
Right.
And we're obviously a stand. We're not a stand against it. We're a stand for ourselves. We're not fighting anybody. We're here to be somebody and to be recognized as a viable, participating members of the society.
And it's a beautiful thing to see, like, when the community gets involved with the media that they consume, and even better, becomes part of that. Like you're seeing, I'm sure, at WCNY with all the, one of the things before we watched the premiere of Nelly, I talked to some people there in the audience. I interviewed them a bit, and it was just great to come together with people from around the region who also like these kinds of shows, and we're excited and knew who Helena Bonham Carter was. And I spoke to a couple who didn't know what Crossroads was. Like, I didn't really know too much about it till the show began. But people that are interested in experiencing a different culture or learning new things, or hearing stories about people that we don't see stories about, like her. It's a really nice thing. And you have another event coming up too soon.
Well, we have another event we have to get to.
We have to break for commercials.
Yeah.
So Ruben, do you want to just tell us quick about the food event, and then we will wrap this up with you. We'll let you go.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll do a real quick here. Taste of Fame, upcoming. I can't get too many details. Still in the process of confirming a chef. But if you head over to WCNY.org, we'll be announcing Taste of Fame. That's our premier event for the region, right? We bring in a celebrity chef. In past years, we've had Leah Bastianich, Marian Esposito. So we've got some big names. We're going to bring another big name in for you for the Central New York region. It's going to be hosted at Roman's Country Club a little later on this year. Can't give too many details. Still some contracts to be wrapped
Well,
up.
when you have the details,
You can
get
buy
us
some
an email.
airtime over
And
here.
Ruben, before you go,
Promote it.
I just want to say this was really an exciting thing for me to do this. It was a huge amount of work. I'm sure you can imagine. I spent all weekend, for 4 weekends in a row, to get this stuff done. But it was really exciting. I really enjoyed this, and I loved working with you guys and helping to promote this wonderful show. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on, and really appreciate everything you guys do, and I hope the weather is great for you guys as it's been over
It's
here.
beautiful.
So far, so good.
Beautiful. Yep.
Great, Ruben. So we will talk again soon.
I'll see you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Kloppenstein, and he's gonna talk to you about Nolly.
Yeah,
And there's more to that story.
There's so much to the story
Yeah.
too. I think that the people I've told so many people they ought to watch the show, and it's like even if you're not interested in soap operas or the show business aspect of this, it's an interesting story about
Culturally.
a person who was a trailblazer, who was accomplished, and as Helena Bonham Carter, the woman who played her in the show, said, when she was sacked fired, dropped. Her contract wasn't renewed. She was 61, really at the top of her game as an actress. And, it says a lot about the fact that the networks over here, I was going to say over there, as in over here, felt that they could do this. Just like fire somebody.
They did.
They did, and they got away
Right.
with it. And they never even told her why. So now, in real life, Noelle Gordon never learned why she was, dropped after all those years and all those accomplishments. But, by piecing things together, it's pretty obvious. In the show itself, it's more like crystallizes and clarifies what happens. There's like a sort of like a plot twist. In real life, after she was dropped from Crossroads, she was in a production of Gypsy, the big Broadway play,
Yeah.
big play. In England, it was about to go to the West End, which is like the English version of our Broadway.
Okay.
But it wasn't able to because at that time they were trying to relaunch it in the U.S. and part of the
Gypsy?
licensing agreement. Yeah, this was early 80s. It didn't actually make it to Broadway here until 1987, the second time, the revival. But because of that, she never got to go back to the West End. So she goes on like an international tour with a different play, and in the show, they have a real life event. She was out with her castmates. They went to a strip club in Bangkok and got busted by the cops. And it was a funny anecdote in real life. In the show, the way that they play it is they kind of use it as a story device to have a run into someone who is in the show now working for the British consulate, who was working at ATV when she was dropped,
canned, yeah.
who tells her what happened was that, and this is like kind of what happened overall,
Yeah.
is that the male director and producer of the show itself
Yeah.
got sick of dealing with someone who was female, who had opinions, who had ideas, who demanded quality,
Food was important to the
who
script.
had power.
Yep.
Who was essential to the story.
Right.
She was the center of the story. So his complaints higher up made the boys in the back room, decide
We'll get rid of
this
her.
bra's got to go.
Right,
So that was
Yep.
actually it. So in the show itself, in the
She had
TV
the
version,
audacity to have an opinion.
she did. And in
And
the
then
show
back it
itself, we actually get to see her like confront him with all the stuff that they said about her. So in this really overall, although this is like fictionalized version of what happened, and there was never any real confrontation between her and the network, in the show, in last night's episode, she confronts him with all the things that he said about her, which is really what people were saying about her at the time. Man, and they wouldn't have said this about another man. They said she was a bully, she was a prima donna, she was delusional. She said, "So you say I made people go through hell? I'm a fly in the ointment." She was
And that would be a
that
black person.
because she is a
Sounds like somebody
difficult.
I know.
Yes, exactly right. So you can relate to this. So you
I'm a
gotta,
bully? Am I a bully?
no, neither was she.
Think you are.
But she was perceived as
They
that.
talk about, yeah.
Because if it was a man who was star of a soap, if it was a man who had a career as a journalist before that, had built the network as she did, had so essential to the building of the network, they wouldn't have said that about her. They wouldn't have said she was a
About
bully.
him, yeah.
They certainly wouldn't have said she was delusional, because she
Right.
was not. They would not have said she was a typical asset.
Hysterical is the other thing. Oh,
Right.
She's hysterical.
Yep.
You know,
So,
you know
but
what
they
hysterical
did.
thing is about hysterectomy?
You're
Yeah.
hysterectomy, yep,
You're
yep, right.
fired up because
They
of your,
blamed that
your
for that
biology,
value.
yeah.
Right.
Mm.
So she was treated in many ways, talked about in many ways, regarded in many ways as you are too. You've had to fight
Well,
these battles. You
oh my God!
still do.
If anybody else owned this place, I'd be gone by now.
Right?
If a man, I'll say if a
But
man.
they
owned it,
don't.
but they
So
don't,
thank
they-
goodness you don't have to worry about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You're the one who can make other people go
That's right.
be gone. So
That's right.
yeah. But that's the thing is like, yes, she was demanding because she was the star of the show. The show
And
was
she had a vision
built
for it,
around her.
And it was obviously successful.
right.
So she was making the right moves.
She knew what she was
Right.
doing. She had good instincts
Right.
and stuff. And so, like, even though in real life she never got to have this confrontation, and in real life it never was actually said just like that. It's what everybody knew. And like Russell T Davies is a producer. He's kind of like the Ryan Murphy of the UK. You know, he's the one who rebooted Doctor Who and made it into an international global phenomenon. He's also produced other shows that have crossed the pond over to the U.S. Like it's a stand about the early gay rights movement. He's done a lot of big hit shows, and you know he too. Like you know he was a fan of hers. So it's like I think he and I have some stuff in common. You know, he grew up watching Crossroads, like I grew up watching General Hospital,
Okay.
and so he always liked her, and he remembered her. And that's the thing is like with soap operas, a lot of people who don't watch them don't understand them and don't understand that part of the appeal of soaps. And a woman named Erna Phillips, she's a person who, in the 1930s, she was writing. She created some radio soaps for CBS and Procter and Gamble, and then she's the first person to really grasp that with TV would have so much power because of the close-ups on actors' faces, and she knew that like with TV, if you have dramas that really get into the inner lives of people talk about their feelings, their problems, their issues, and you see them deal with this every single day in close-up, where you don't have on radio, just have the sound,
Right.
that it would be just a powerful impact.
The familiarity.
It would be, and it would like fuel this loyalty to the shows, to the advertisers, to the networks. So she got it, and so this genre was created by females, and it's not surprising that in soaps it was the women who really rose to the forefront, who were the people who made others tune in,
Well-
but still they were disrespected to this day.
Well,
by the men.
I have to think that it's more often women that are watching these.
Absolutely.
shows, right?
Right.
And so they're playing.
Which makes it all the more
right.
galling.
Insulting. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That they would take away their star.
Right.
The representation of themselves.
So one of the things I've done for this work I'm doing, and I'm working on one more story about this, about kind of like how her story is similar to Mary Stewart, who was a star of Search for Tomorrow, an American soap, which surprisingly, when I saw the picture of when I saw the promo stuff for this show, I saw Helena Bonham Carter with the red hair and the makeup, and then I thought, that looks like Mary Stewart from Search for Tomorrow, a show I didn't watch, but I was familiar with. It went off the air in 1983, I believe. And so I started to look it up. Search for Tomorrow, too. It was a half-hour show. It was based on a woman who was a widow who used the money that she got when her husband died to turn her house into a boarding house. So, and also Mary Stewart, like she was the star of the show from the 50s right through to the cancellation. She was the heart of the show, but still, in my interviews, I spoke to somebody who was a production assistant at Search for Tomorrow for Procter & Gamble during the 80s, and I talked to some people who were journalists and bloggers and stuff. She went through the same stuff that Noelle did. Like networks, they wanted to get rid of her, thought she was like old hat and she was too old. Even though she launched the show, she was the heart of the show, she was the star of the show, and she did get to remain with the show until it ended. But she kind of went through the same stuff. And what's interesting too, I'm finding out, is there's an archive at SU's library by a guy who wrote breakdowns for the show, which means that he would take the vision of the head writer and he would decide how to take that story and how to break that down into like, so you have a head writer first who comes up with the big stories, like for this year, this month, 6 months, we're going to tell a story over the course of a month with the main big story over arching arcs are. Then you usually have like an associate head writer who maybe will break it down by weeks. Like in this week, we accomplished this much with this story. Then you have a breakdown writer who takes those weekly outlines and turns that into like what happens each day. And then below that, you have the script writer who takes the breakdown writer stuff and writes the actual script.
Huh.
So there's a lot of layers here. So a breakdown writer would be someone who's kind of like in the middle of all that. So there's an archive of this guy who's a breakdown writer for Search, his notes, his scripts and stuff. So I'm gonna try to run up there and like take a look at this stuff. And what I want to do is write about how there are parallels across the ocean in the U.S.
Well, that sounds like it was a total grab from the basis of the Mount Nolly piece and that.
Oh yeah, it's kind of amazing how the two.
But the creative process, what I found, having written several scripts, over a period of time,
right.
is I think that is very interesting the way they do it, because
Right.
in the creative process, inevitably something happens that takes you off someplace else.
Right. Right.
And I
Doesn't
wonder how
happen
they.
much in soaps.
I guess not. I just wonder how
Yeah.
they accommodate that.
There were 3 times in each episode of this show, of the show, at least once, someone referred to it as a machine, and that's what soaps are like.
Okay.
It's a machine.
Okay.
Like it has a go.
They have they have a setup, a system.
They
and,
do,
yeah,
yes.
A formula.
They also have one of the things that's difficult with soaps, I think, with the breakdown of soaps, is that people with soap contracts have a guarantee of how many episodes per week they will appear in.
Mm-hmm.
So like if someone has a guarantee of like 3,
Mm-hmm.
that's all they can be in, like 3 times
Right.
a week. So even if something like is really interesting and a scriptwriter may think, it's too bad I can't write her into this scene because that's her niece to talk about.
Right.
You really can't. And with Crossroads, which is really interesting, is that on Crossroads, Noelle Gordon was the only performer who had a contract with the show, who had a guarantee, who
So
wasn't
being every
right. All the
episode.
rest of them were like,
Hangers on.
we have stuff for you to do next week, or we don't.
Huh.
So it was even more shocking.
So it was
that
like
they
come
would
and
fire
go
her.
kind of thing.
Right.
With the other actors.
So here we had a
So
woman.
was it really like an ensemble?
It was, but it was an ensemble, and there were some characters she had a son and a daughter on the show. Those 2 characters and the actors that portrayed them, they were also very long term. Like they lasted for 20
Okay.
years too.
Okay.
They lasted after her character was written out, but for them they just weren't on a contract, so like they could be written out at any time, and so she was the only person who was recognized as essential to the continuation of that show, and the show was holding on to its 15 million viewers every episode. Like at the time the show picks up here, it was 3 times a week, which is something where you don't get rid of the person at the top.
Oh yeah.
When the show
So
they
question.
do at times,
Question.
yeah.
So what other comments did she have? You only
Well,
have a few more minutes. Give us some comments.
so there were some
from
really
her
good
words.
quotes that were from her words at the time. She was a lot more diplomatic in real life than the character on the show, the Nolly's.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
For the purposes of drama and
Right.
fireworks and stuff. So when she found out she was being dropped, she discreetly arranged for an interview with a newspaper and leaked it to them. Then the next day, there was a big mob scene of reporters at the rehearsal, for the next show.
Was she just gone suddenly?
Well,
Did
what
she-
happened was they brought her in and told her they would not be renewing her contract, but that she was going to have another 6 months on the show to wrap things up. But then they decided they wanted to hurry it along, and they got rid of her by Thanksgiving. So she found out in early summer, spring, and the idea was she would last till about after the New Year, kind of into February. And but then they rushed it, and they wanted to get her off the air. And a similar thing happened on One Life to Live with Robin Strasser, who played Dorian Lord, who was a huge name on the show. She was the key vixen for most of the show's run. The last year the show was on the air, she was having problems with her back, and so she had trouble mobility, and she had trouble wearing high heel shoes, And rather than like try to accommodate that and keep her on the show till it ended, because it was going to end,
Yeah.
they rushed her right off the air too.
They
So
killed her off or something.
it happens. They had her leave town.
So,
but like,
so more quotes from now.
oh yeah. So let's see. So there were so many interesting things that like people said, but I was also very interested too in like what the actual people themselves said. And on archive.com, I found the 1975 autobiography that she wrote, where she talked about what it's like kind of to be an actor in a soap. Because usually like with TV shows, even with a TV show, like you do it for like 8-9 months of the year, but then you have other stuff.
Yeah.
With a movie,
Reruns, they're
you
called
make it.
reruns.
Well, no, I mean like that. Well, like the actor moves on to other stuff
Okay.
too. But with a soap, you're tied to that soap, and like you're
Right.
playing the same character for like 20 years straight. So she talked about like how one of the quotes that she says in her autobiography is how hard it is to like come back to the real world and remember like who's Noelle and who is Meg, the character on the soap, because after a while they kind of blur together. If you're playing a part for 20 years, 5 days a week you're someone else. So that kind of underscores how painful it was to her and what a loss it was to lose that job, because it's more than an income.
Not just
it's your
job,
identity.
There you go. That's
Your
it right there.
identity. Yes. So one of the things I like so much.
This is Cassandra Harris-Lockwood.
So why did it do that?
Well, this is the hot
What if
seat,
Dave
so
did
I
it?
guess did I do that? I pressed one of the
No.
buttons. Okay. So one of the scenes that I like so much is Nolly, after she's let go, the day her last episode is to air, to kind of boost her ego, but which we all got to do at times.
Yeah.
She went shopping with her friend, and she got on a city bus. So of course, everyone made a big deal. Oh my God, is it you? Is it you? Like, why do you get sacked? And there's this guy on the bus who's like a jerk about it. He's like, I don't know who you are, like he has to make a point, I don't watch soap operas and stuff. So he talks about, so the bus riders with her all get mad and like, I've watched the show for 20 years, my grandma watched it,
defend
I
her,
watched
huh?
it. So he said, that's the problem right there. It's a women's thing. So she like goes off on him. This is a work of art. So she says to him, oh, is that how it works? Because women, we sit there with our soap operas. We're all ridiculous, aren't we? Aren't we stupid? Aren't we soft? Well, men have pubs and football and beer. Oh, those are important things, aren't they? They're serious, they're valid, they're worthwhile. So men can sit back and spread their legs and look at things they love with contempt, with their lips curling into a sneer. And then she says, well, let me tell you, like when you men walk into the bedroom with your saggy yellow underpants, we look at you the same way. And it's like the whole bus is like
Cracking
erupting.
up,
So.
yeah.
And there's a scene in the last episode where some guy comes up to her and says, oh, this is a soap opera thing, I don't watch soaps. And she says, well, that is like your effing loss. It's like good for her. She was tough, she was smart,
She came back at
she
him.
gave it right back. And it cost her, but she never.
had a good run.
She wasn't victimized.
And
Right?
she's
And
probably making some
40
royalties
years
over this.
later, well,
She's dead.
died. But 40 years later, we remember her.
Yes.
We celebrate her.
Yep.
And so good for her. And what a good show this was for Women's History Month.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Ron, and thank you for bringing in the media from
Our new friend
Syracuse.
from
Yeah,
WCNY.
Yep. And thanks for all your good work.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in, folks. And check
see you
out
Monday.
Yeah, and check out Ron's work on
UticaPhoenix.net/TV.
Okay. Thanks for tuning in. Turning it over to Jay Easy. Good night.